All right, back here on the Steve Day Show. Maybe you guys saw me wearing a really cool gray hoodie last week. Well, actually, tens of thousands of you didn't. Thanks to Apple. But not that I'm bitter, but I'm very, very, in fact. Anywho, if you did, if you were one of the lucky few that got to see that really cool gray hoodie I was wearing last week, it's from our friends over at Conduit Clothing, right? So they don't just do really cool casual clothing. They do that. But they're mission-driven, not margin-driven. And so they are trying to pass out right now 500 ESV Bibles, not just to you, but the people you know that don't have one, right? They want to multiply here the Word of God, right? So if you want to get really cool gear, and then on top of that, make sure you put the most important thing on the earth, the only perfect thing on the earth, the Word of God, into the hands of somebody that needs it. Go to conduitclothing.com. Use the code Steve. You'll get free shipping right now. Conduit, as in a conduit for Christ. CONDUIT. Conduitclothing.com. Use the promo code Steve. You'll get free shipping. Lots of cool casual gear there. So you can wear your faith and wear the messages of your faith. Maybe those will be conversation starter. Who knows? They might even be conversation enders with some of the people that you'd prefer to keep quiet. Works both ways. Conduitclothing.com, CONDUIT. Use the promo code Steve for free shipping at conduitclothing.com, code Steve. And we welcome in our good friend, Bob Vanderplatz from The Family Leader. Good to see you, my man. How are you?
Good to see you. And thanks for wearing that gray hoodie. I did see you.
You did see that. Yeah,
yeah I did.
Yeah.
But you need to take a bite out of that apple. You don't need to be Steve Deace unplugged.
That situation, man.
Did we have to go here?
You did. You went there.
I went there.
I was going to move on. You went there.
I heard it privately.
Because believe me, I've been parked here all weekend long. I've just begun to vent. All right.
Oh,
it's only our livelihood.
I know it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to panic.
Well, if they're going to miss a show, don't miss Mondays. How we doing?
All right. I didn't think much of this when I saw the clip we're about to show the audience. I just thought, no, that's interesting. But what made it very interesting to me is when I saw that you highlighted it. Okay? Because, for people that don't know, and for the tens of thousands of people who can't hear this right now because of Apple, they may find out later.
Sure.
Who knows? Maybe these shows one day will get restored. We'll see. Okay. But you have a reputation for having a bit of influence in the Iowa presidential caucuses here in our home state.
Every now and then.
And of course, that process is going to start here about, well, if we lose badly, it's going to start about 5 minutes after the midterms. And if the midterms do not go as bad as they look right now, they might. It'll start 15 minutes after the midterms, right? Okay, so it's going to be pretty soon here that this process is going to kick into high gear.
And unofficially, it's already started.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. But the fact you highlighted this got my attention. So let's play this clip for the audience.
Points of disagreement between yourself and your vice president when it comes to U.S. action in Iran?
I don't think so, no. No, we get along very well on this. He was, I would say, philosophically a little bit different than me. I think he was maybe less enthusiastic about going, but he was quite enthusiastic. But I felt it was something we had to do. I didn't feel we had a choice. If we didn't do it, they would have done it to us. I felt, based on the negotiations that were being had by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and Marco and Pete and everybody was involved, I felt that they were looking to tap us along before they hit, and I thought they were going to hit. And if they hit us first, that would have been a very bad thing. In the back, please, in the back.
All right. Why did you highlight this?
I highlighted, I think I put the word insightful. And insightful because we know there's a division taking place. And J.D. Vance is the wingman of President Donald Trump. And if he is to run for president, he's not going to be able to separate himself from some of these issues. And we know that Tucker Carlson believes this is grievously evil. I forget what the exact words that he had, but everybody else knows that Tucker's relationship with J.D. is very, very strong. And so I thought it was insightful on a couple. And one is that a reporter asked, where's JD in these negotiations? Is he with you? Is he enthusiastic about this? And I thought Trump's answer was also kind of telling. You saw him think about it, almost take a deep breath. And even when he used the word philosophically, he was more philosophical. Well, that's kind of JD anyhow, right? He is more philosophical. That's what we appreciate about JD as well. He's very bright. But then Trump saying, he might not have been as enthusiastic, but he was still enthusiastic. Now, everybody can read into that what they want to read into, the way Trump characterized that, but kind of like the way I took it as, okay, I'll go along with this. And quite frankly, when you're vice president, you don't have a whole lot of choice anymore. You will go along with this. When you agreed to be vice president, you agreed to go along with this. But now you're going to have to own it as well. And so when you take a look at the fractures or the divisions taking place, to me, it does lend itself to 2028. JD's going to have to answer these questions. If Ted Cruz is in the race, he's going to make sure JD answers these questions. If it's Ron DeSantis, Glenn Youngkin, Brian Kemp, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, you name the ones who are probably all going to be in this race, JD's going to have to own a lot of this stuff. Now, some of the stuff is going to be very good to own. Some of it's going to be stuff he'd rather run away from. But I thought it was insightful, A, the reporter's question, and then B, I thought just the way Trump responded to it both non-verbally and verbally.
So I've had a few conversations with some little birdies about this over the last week, I would say.
Over this exact clip or over the whole situation?
Over the whole situation.
Okay.
And then this clip kind of emerged, because you're right, unofficially, I was discussing when it unofficially begins, which is right after the midterms.
Sure.
But the unofficial beginning has already begun.
Sure.
That is true. All right. So I had a couple little birdie conversations about this. And I had a couple little birdies actually come to me and ask me my opinion about this. I actually think this could not be going better for J.D. Vance.
Sure.
And let me explain why. This is setting up now that he's never going to have to clean up this mess. He's never going to have to address it. Because what is happening is that Tucker is casting himself so far out of the mainstream, so far out of Trump's mainstream, which right now on the right is really the only mainstream that ultimately matters.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing that so much so and JD has to own every action of the Trump administration. Not to mention, that's totally fine, because no one's going to win the next nomination in the Republican Party running against the Trump administration, right? So even stuff that they do that we don't agree with or we don't think is working out, right? Like, let's say this war turns into an unmitigated Iraq-like disaster, which would shock me given the current people involved.
Sure.
But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's going to happen. Name me the candidate who's going to run on what an asinine decision Trump made and try to win the Republican nomination with that in 28. Who is that?
And after most of them, if not all of them, have said what a bold
Correct.
and courageous decision
Correct.
this was. Obama should have done it. George W. should have done it. George H.W. should have done it. Bill Clinton should. Nobody had the courage to do it until Donald Trump stepped into
I think
race.
I think this is giving JD a chance to actually own both sides of the argument to some degree. Which is, now this assumes at some point now, I mean, Tucker's already dropped blood libels on Jews, and we're just repeating Nazi tropes and platforming Ian Carroll.
Unconditional surrenders. We are going to rape your women.
Your soldiers get to
children.
rape your women, right? Okay.
What is this?
I mean, so who knows what this looks like in 60 days,
Yep.
right? But at the time that you and I are having this conversation on March the 16th, I mean, JD's in a position of saying, listen, my record is the policies of the Trump administration. That's my record. And on the other hand, I don't think we should be, as a movement, out to just eagerly just cast out everybody that has opinions that disagree with us and things of that nature. Obviously, my record is in opposition to much of what my friend Tucker wants to say. That's not going to change my friendship with him. If it changes his friendship with me, that's his decision. But now he is being offered, and I thought this was going to be a problem about 6 months ago. But the more radicalized Tucker has become, and now you have Trump himself essentially, taking his belt off and spanking Tucker. Did it again last night with the Mark Levin post he put on social media.
It's becoming easier to do.
Yes. And so in many respects, Trump is clearing out the brush for JD. And now JD can just fall back on my record. I'm the vice president of the United States. My record is the record of this administration. It's not the podcast that Tucker Carlson did on February 9th of 2026. This is my record. Okay.
And even for JD, not only is Trump clearing the brush for JD, but JD could point back to that clip and say, did you hear what he said? JD was more philosophical about this. What does that mean? JD could say, I asked all the pertinent and relevant questions to make sure everybody went in eyes wide open versus eyes shut. I was an adult in the room to make sure all these questions that all of you had got addressed. And then when the decision's made, you bet I'm a loyal VP. I shouldered up with the president, and we
he gets to say to that dissident wing, I'm the only voice you have.
Sure.
And I made sure your concerns were heard. But then he gets to come to Iowa and South Carolina, where the average caucus goer and the average South Carolina primary voter is going to be a 65-year-old evangelical white boomer. And he's going to get to say, and I was there the whole time that we dunked on Iran and dropped Moabs and everything else. I mean, this is actually setting up very, very well for him.
Yep.
And the other issue, at least as far as I can see, and ultimately none of this is an issue unless Marco Rubio runs.
Right.
There's none of all the other names you mentioned, like you, I know them, like them to various degrees, respect them to various degrees, fine people, okay? But the only name that makes this entire conversation relevant is Marco Rubio's, and I'm not entirely convinced he would run without knowing knowing going in the Trump endorsement was gettable, for at least gettable, or he had it. Okay.
I would say he had it, and that he saw that JD is collapsing, and because JD is collapsing, it gives him a lane to go in and run. But when I mention those other names, a lot of the other names are looking for the separation over Israel, over this Iran war, over those types of things with JD because of JD's association with Tucker. Steve, you're right. The more radicalized Tucker becomes, the more out of the mainstream he becomes, the more like, who is this Tucker anymore? It gives JD way more clearance. And you know what? JD's the one in the room where it happened. All these others are not.
Right.
So JD can say, listen, I represented all your interests. And when the president, who's a bold and courageous leader, made a bold and courageous decision, you're doggone right, I shouldered up with him.
I mean, he gets to say, I'm the unifying force of this coalition. I represent a wing that often feels like they're not heard. I make sure your voice is heard. He can go to those events, to the NatCon conferences and, whatever other stuff is going on in that wing. He can go have those conversations. He can show up at the Family Leadership Summit and at the South Carolina, wave the Israeli flag evangelical event and say, hey, I was on the administration that made the entire Iranian regime assume room temperature. I don't know. Todd and Aaron, what do you think? Because I actually think this is actually setting up very well for him.
Well, once again, it's such a bizarro world. Looking back to where we started, watching Trump come down the escalator, early debates with all those candidates, how more often than not, Donald Trump, of all people, is the grown-up in the room having the most reasonable conversation. It's who saw that coming?
And he's the one who's making the decisions. And I think if JD says that, listen, I'm philosophical by nature. There's no doubt I am. And what Trump has taught me, at some point, you need to make a decision, and you need to be able to make a decision as President of the United States. And I learned under that. I was an apprentice under that. That gives me, the bona fides to be the next President of the United States.
Aaron, what do you think?
Bob will not be able to hear this, so you'll have to relay to him what I said. You said we don't know what this will look like in 60 days. We don't know what this whole thing will look like in 6 hours. However, I agree with the analysis as it stands right now. It's kind of setting up to where J.D. Vance can play both sides, own both sides of the argument here. And I think that's probably not the prevailing wisdom that is out there right now. But when you look at it just a little bit closely, a little bit closer like you just did, I do think this is shaping up. But again, we're at war. Wars can change really, really fast. Things can come up really, really fast. So 60 days, 6 hours, it could be a lot different.
One thing I'm curious about philosophically, if one of those things is no matter how well this war goes, if we don't pass the SAVE Act,
without question,
how's that going to look to our voters? Because how much are they going to care then?
Well, that's true for this fall. Yeah.
For the midterms this fall, but the midterms definitely play into 2028. If you lose the midterms and all of a sudden it's just constant indictment, constant impeachment, President Trump or not advance
Exactly.
anything else, that weakens a J.D. Vance in a big way.
Who's going to run on Ted Cruz? You think Ted Cruz is going to listen? I like Ted. I was in those meetings. Okay, I was in that debate prep, trying to get Ted to punch back one-on-one against Trump, not his native tongue. And so Ted's going to run on the Trump administration has failed us. They lost us the midterms. And that's why we're bogged down. And that's why I'm in the Senate right now in the minority, bogged down in impeachment. Is that he's going to run on that? Because I have a hard time believing that's going to happen.
Ted Cruz may not. Will others, though? I definitely believe if it's a midterm loss, that is not advantage J.D. Vance. It might be advantage to a Marco Rubio saying, listen, because Marco Rubio got unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Everybody seems to love Marco. He just takes on more and more jobs type thing. I think for JD to be the basically heir apparent here, I believe they do have to win the midterms.
I think the only opinion that matters is Trump's. I think that's the only opinion that matters. And I think that if on the inside, if he has lost confidence in JD to take over as a standard bearer, then he'll endorse Rubio. And barring that, I really don't think any of this matters because there's one candidate who could try this. The problem is, and I love Ron DeSantis. The problem is he tried this to some degree. He kind of tried it when he tried to run in the primary and then kind of didn't, okay? And I just don't see a lane for can Thomas Massey beat Donald Trump in his congressional district where he's so very well known and so very well liked on an individual basis? Yeah, and he's done it before and he may do it again, okay? Could he do it nationwide?
I don't think so.
That's what you're kind of asking somebody to do.
However, though, Steve, if we're transparent and be mature about this, there's all kinds of fractures within the GOP base, all the way from what you talked about, the SAVE Act, the establishments, those who don't want Trump anymore, those who are all in for Trump. Heck, in Iowa, it's the pipeline, it's the ESA.
Don't disagree with any of that.
Everybody seems to be fractured. One thing takes care of people's division, that is winning. And if you win in 2026, I believe it's advantage J.D. Vance. If you lose in 2026, I believe those fractures get more deepened and widened, and now you have a real caucus race or primary race on your hands.
Okay. Well, we're going to have plenty. I'll give you the last word. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss this and debate this. But I knew this would be a fascinating conversation. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well.
All right, we're going to come back. Go Hawks. Nice. You guys have Clemson, right? That'll be a tough one.
We got Clemson, but remember those Cyclones. Those Cyclones could win it all. They could give your Michigan Wolverines a run.
Next hour, it's your turn to ask me anything. Stay tuned.